So yeah, basically you can send it out. You'll have, when you do it like this in particular, it'll send it before the effects, and then you'll still have your dry signal. Okay, I got it on. And you'll still have your dry signal, right? So it'll send it, then it's going to send your dry signal through the effects. So it's going to send that to the preamp. It's not going to come back from the preamp until the return, right? So let me make sure I'm making this clear, because it is a funky little concept sometimes. So we'll just do the send and return at the moment, real quick, before we get out of here. So you got the send. The send is going to the input of the amp, and the return is coming from the send of the amp. So basically, it's coming from the output of the preamp. It's coming from the preamp out, pretty much, is what the send is on the amp. So to the return of the B6. All right. So that's what we're listening to now. Now we're going to hear the dry, which we'll be able to hear because the dry have the harmony on it. The dry going through the 160 compressor, volume pedal, HPS, and that's what this sounds like. Return. So we could change this easily to delay. Delay and reverb type situation. Just get this nice little reverb in there. So So as you can see, I can have that nice distorted sound coming through. So that return is what's coming from directly back in from the amp. So it's literally going out before it gets to any of these effects, and then coming back separately after all those effects are in play. So theoretically, like you can have two completely different tones going on right here. And you still have them going separately. You can mix them any way you would like. Say you want the compressor and the volume pedal to affect everything. So see, you could just be you got plenty of options at that point. It just depends on where you're placing things. So basically anything you place before the send is going to go to everything, and the dry is going to be, but if you want just your dry signal, you wouldn't put any effects before the send, right? But we want a compressor on everything, right? So we want a compressor on everything. Now we got the amp. So the send is how much signal we send into the amp. So if we want more grit, excuse me, if we want more grit from the amp, we just push the send. Now we got more grit. If we need more of the dry signal, we just would push more of the dry signal. So we got that, and then bam. And then when we come back here to the return, this return skipped all those effects. So this is just from the preamp that we just pushed, right? And then we got our clean tone from the effects. That's super powerful right there. That gives you a ton of flexibility, especially because you can have effects that go afterwards, and you got effects that go in between, things like that. So like this. yeah, that's pretty much how you get more. You know, that's pretty much how you would do that. And as you can hear, I got a little bit of the amp mixed in there as well. With the mic that you saw me with. Um, my usual setup would be pretty much running into the Zoom B6, and then from there I would run a. This is my. I wouldn't use this method if I want to run IRs. If you want to run IRs, this is not the correct method for that. Because of I don't really. Is this hold up? Is this going to the amp? Let me see something. Yeah, this wouldn't be the correct method for running the IRs. Um, Pretty much if you want to run the IRs, I'll just give you a quick little tip. I'll do a video about it, but running the IRs is you running into the Zoom B6, whether it be your pedal board or whatever. Then you doing all of your effects, and then everything except for an IR. You know, your bass amp effect or your preamp effect, and then an effect send, and you set that to the sub out like this, sub out, and then that'll allow you to send that signal to your bass amp. And this dry signal would be the signal going to the IR that would be placed after the send. So basically, you know, you see how this spring is the spring reverb is after the return. That's the same way it would be. So you know, it just would be just that. But yeah, that's pretty much how you would do that. And that signal would go to the amp. You know, the dry signal, the signal without the IR goes to the amp, and the signal with the IR goes to the XLR out to the system. So this is a slightly different method. This is for people who want to experiment with and use their amp, preamp, the actual physical amps, tones with their effects in different ways and be able to interact with them and have them in a signal path in different ways, pretty much. So it is a little complex signal path. Just to do a recap, you do your input. So if you're not using an effects pedal board, if you're just using your bass, right? You use your bass going into the Zoom B6 or any effects you want all the time on your bass. You put that in front. So I have like my whole pedal board in front of my Zoom B6, and I run that into the input of the Zoom B6. I run the send from the Zoom B6 to the input of the bass amp.